You used to care about your skin, your peace, your space. Now, even brushing your teeth feels like a chore. Washing your hair? Too much. Cooking a real meal? Feels impossible. And maybe you started to believe you're lazy, weak, broken. But here's the truth. It's not laziness. It's trauma. And you're not broken. You're burned out from surviving something that never gave you time to recover. Narcissistic abuse doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your rhythm, your capacity, your care for yourself. When you've spent months, or years, being manipulated, criticized, controlled, you don't just move on. You disconnect. From joy. From energy. From your own body. Comment: I've felt that if you've ever looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who stopped showing up for you. This isn't a hygiene issue. This is survival residue. So today, we're not just going to talk about why you stopped taking care of yourself. We're going to understand the real reasons behind it, and how to reclaim it without shame. Because self-care after narcissistic abuse isn't a spa day. It's a resurrection. Coming up next, why exhaustion that doesn't go away might not be just tired. It might be adrenal fatigue, your body saying, I can't take this anymore. Stay with me. Let's break the silence, and take our power back. You wake up, and still feel tired. Not just sleepy, drained. Everything hurts, even joy. You think, maybe I need more sleep. But 9 hours doesn't help. Maybe I'm just out of shape. But even walking to the fridge feels like climbing a mountain. That's not normal tired. That's survival mode fatigue. And it lives in your body. After narcissistic abuse, your nervous system stays on alert. Your adrenal glands, the part that pumps cortisol to help you handle stress, never shut off. Dr. James Wilson calls this adrenal fatigue. It's when your body's been surviving danger for so long. It forgets how to rest. What does it feel like? You crash midday, but can't sleep at night. You crave sugar, caffeine, anything to push through. You lose motivation to do the smallest things, like brushing your hair. It's not that you don't want to take care of yourself. It's that your body doesn't feel safe enough to try. Comment: burned out if you've ever felt like your energy disappeared, and no amount of sleep could bring it back. Your body isn't betraying you. It's begging for recovery. Coming up next. What happens when every choice you try to make gets questioned, mocked, or overruled? Let's talk about micromanagement. And why it kills your ability to care for yourself. You want to eat something simple. But you stop. Will they be annoyed if I don't ask first? You think about going for a walk. But again, pause. Will they accuse me of ignoring them? That's not overthinking. That's conditioning. When you live with a narcissist, your choices aren't yours. They control what you wear, what you eat, when you speak. Even how you breathe feels like it needs approval. And over time, you lose your autonomy. You stop making choices, and start anticipating reactions. Psychologist Lindsay Hoskins calls this externalized living, where your sense of self is shaped entirely by someone else's expectations. Micromanagement doesn't just exhaust you. It reprograms you. Suddenly, the idea of self-care feels like rebellion. A nap? Lazy. A new haircut? Attention-seeking. A journal? Why are you being so dramatic? It's not that you don't care. It's that caring becomes dangerous. Comment: not mine if you've ever felt like your life wasn't even yours to live. Healing means reclaiming the smallest decisions. What do you want to eat? What do you need to rest? Start with one yes that doesn't need permission. Coming up next. What if every time you try to do something kind for yourself, you're met with guilt, mockery, or punishment? Let's talk about how narcissists punish self-care. And why your healing might have felt like betrayal. You try to take a walk. Why are you ignoring me? You cook a healthy meal. Oh, now you're acting better than everyone? You rest for 15 minutes. You're lazy. Must be nice to do nothing. Sound familiar? In a narcissistic relationship, self-care becomes rebellion. Any action you take to care for yourself, no matter how small, is met with guilt, mockery, or punishment. Why? Because to a narcissist, your independence is a threat. Dr. Jennifer Freed explains. Narcissistic abusers often punish autonomy, even when it looks like simple self-maintenance. That's why survivors of emotional abuse don't just neglect self-care. They fear it. They've been trained to expect emotional consequences for prioritizing themselves. So what happens? You stop going for walks. You stop making nourishing food. You stop slowing down. Because the backlash just isn't worth it. Comment guilty for resting if you've ever hidden your healing just to avoid conflict. But here's the truth. You're not selfish for caring for yourself. You were just conditioned to believe you're only lovable when you're selfless. You get to unlearn that. You get to rest. You get to be well, even when it upsets them. Coming up next. What happens when you shut down completely? And stop feeling anything at all? Let's talk about emotional numbing. And why it makes self-care feel unnecessary. You used to love music. Now? Silence. You used to enjoy long showers, slow mornings, a favorite book. Now? Nothing feels good. Or bad. Just, nothing. That blankness? It's not you being cold. It's emotional numbing. When your system is overwhelmed for too long. When you're constantly on edge, anticipating anger, avoiding landmines. Your brain does something to help you survive. It disconnects. You stop feeling. Dr. Patrick Carnes explains this as a protective shutdown mechanism. Your body says, feeling too much hurts. So we'll stop feeling at all. And here's the trap. When you're numb, self-care doesn't just feel unnecessary, it feels irrelevant. You don't crave joy. You don't notice hunger. You don't recognize stress. You just go through the motions. Comment I went numb if you've ever looked around and realized your spark disappeared, without warning. The pain isn't loud anymore. But neither is the peace. And that, too, is a trauma response. Healing starts by noticing small needs again. Are you thirsty? Are you overstimulated? Are you lonely? Ask without pressure. Ask without shame. Because when you start feeling again, you start caring again. Coming up next. What happens when you're taught that your worth only exists in how much you serve others? Let's talk about the martyr complex, and why survivors often abandon themselves in the name of being good. You say yes. Even when you're exhausted. Even when no one asks how you are. You give. And somewhere along the way, you stopped checking if there was anything left for you. That's not just people-pleasing. That's the martyr complex. Dr. Suzanne Lachman describes it as the belief that your value comes only from how much you can sacrifice for others. And narcissistic abuse feeds that belief. Because you're rewarded when you disappear. And punished when you set a boundary. You start confusing being liked with being used. You think being drained is being devoted. Suddenly, self-care feels selfish. Resting equals guilt. Saying no equals shame. Doing anything just for you? Too much. So you put everyone first. Until there's no you left to serve. Comment I forgot myself if you've ever prioritized everyone's needs, except your own. Here's the truth. Caring for yourself isn't taking something from others. It's giving something back to yourself. You're allowed to matter. Even when no one needs you. Start small. Choose one thing today just for you. Not to earn love. Not to perform goodness. Just because you exist. Coming up next. What if you've been living like this so long? You don't even realize it's abuse? Let's talk about lack of awareness. And why so many survivors stay stuck without even knowing why. You didn't think it was abuse. They never hit you. They just rolled their eyes when you cried. Dismissed your feelings. Twisted your words. Made you question your memory. So you told yourself, I'm just too sensitive. It's not that bad. I should be grateful they even stayed. That's gaslighting. And it doesn't just confuse you in the moment. It warps your entire sense of reality. Dr. Ramani Durvasula calls this the slow fog of narcissistic abuse. It's not always obvious, it's cumulative. A gradual erosion of your truth. You start doubting your gut. You stop trusting your intuition. You forget that what you feel is valid. And in that fog, self-care feels irrelevant. Because you're too busy trying to survive. Or justify why you're still there. If you don't even know you're being hurt, how would you know you need healing? Comment I didn't know if you ever stayed too long because you couldn't name what was happening to you. Awareness is painful. But it's also powerful. Once you name it, you can start reclaiming it. You're not crazy. You were conditioned. And you can decondition, slowly, gently, clearly. Coming up next. Even when you do know what's happening. Why does self-care still feel like something you avoid? Let's talk about avoidance. And how even good habits can trigger old pain. You sit next to a warm bath, and walk away. You pour a healthy meal, and push it aside. You could journal tonight, but instead, you scroll in silence. It's not that you don't want to feel better. It's that even the idea of self-care makes you flinch. That's not laziness. That's avoidance. And it's a trauma response. When you've lived through narcissistic abuse, even good things can feel dangerous. Because maybe the last time you took a bath, they mocked you for wasting time. The last time you bought a book, they called you selfish. The last time you tried to relax, they punished you with silence. Your brain connects self-care with pain. So now, you avoid it. Dr. Laura Brown explains it best. For trauma survivors, returning to the body can also mean returning to the pain. And so, even kind acts, like stretching, resting, nourishing, become triggers. Comment I avoid myself if you've ever pulled away from your own healing, even when you knew it would help. The key isn't to force it. It's to start small. One breath. One sip. One sentence. Do it slowly. Do it scared. Do it softly. You're not resisting healing. You're protecting yourself from what healing reminds you of. Coming up next. What happens when you do try to care for yourself, but the emotions come crashing all at once? Let's talk about emotional flooding. And why even brushing your teeth can feel like too much. You reach for your toothbrush. And your chest tightens. You try to get dressed. And your throat closes. A simple task becomes too much. This isn't laziness. This is emotional flooding. When feelings come in too fast, too strong, and all at once. It's your nervous system saying, we've held it together too long. Now it's all spilling out. Dr. Peter Levine, trauma expert, explains. When trauma overwhelms the system, even the smallest triggers can paralyze action. That's why survivors of narcissistic abuse sometimes shut down. Right when they try to take care of themselves. You light a candle, and suddenly feel grief. You pick a shirt, and shame hits. You pause for breath, and a wave of memories crashes in. Comment it all hits at once if you've ever broken down over something that looked small, but felt massive. This is your body processing what it didn't have time to before. It's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough waiting to be held. Don't rush it. Don't fight it. Sit down. Place your hand on your heart. And whisper. This is not too much. It's just a lot. And I'm still here. Coming up next. What if even basic self-care feels out of reach? Because someone else controls your money? Let's talk about financial abuse. And how it quietly steals your ability to choose yourself. You want to eat better. But groceries feel like a luxury. You wish you could see a therapist. But you're not allowed to spend that kind of money. You don't buy that shampoo, those vitamins. Even that extra pair of socks. Because there's always a reason you shouldn't. That's not budgeting. That's financial abuse. Dr. Janet Taylor, financial trauma specialist, puts it simply. When someone controls your access to money, they control your autonomy. And in narcissistic dynamics, this control is rarely obvious. It might look like, let me handle the bills. You don't need to work, I've got you. We can't afford your hobbies right now. Little by little, you stop asking. You stop spending. You stop believing you're worth the cost of care. And even after they're gone? That pattern lingers. You hesitate before buying yourself something small. You feel guilt at the idea of rest, massage, therapy, even good food. Because somewhere inside, you still hear their voice saying, is that really necessary? Comment permission to care if you've ever felt like you had to justify basic needs. But here's the truth. Your well-being isn't a luxury item. It's a birthright. Start where you are. Stretch what you can. But never again put your healing on hold, because someone told you you're not worth the price. Coming up next. What if the chaos isn't just inside your mind, but all around you? Let's talk about chaotic environments. And why your space might be mirroring your inner world. You walk into your room. And there's stuff everywhere. Laundry piling up. Dishes from 2 nights ago. Half-done projects, scattered notebooks, unopened mail. You look around and feel overwhelmed. But more than that, disconnected. Because deep down, you know. This doesn't feel like me. But I don't know how to fix it. That's not just clutter. That's a chaotic environment, a mirror of what you've been holding inside. Dr. Robin Fish explains. A dysregulated space often reflects a dysregulated nervous system. After narcissistic abuse, life feels unpredictable. You've spent so long bracing for impact. For the next mood swing, outburst, silent treatment. That order became irrelevant. Why fold your clothes when someone might explode anyway? Why light a candle when peace never lasts? Your brain stopped planning for calm. And adapted to chaos. Comment my space matches my mind if your environment has ever mirrored the storm inside. The good news? You don't have to clean to heal. But you can heal through creating safety in your space. Start with one surface. One drawer. One corner of calm that whispers, you matter here. Because your environment is not just a background. It's a nervous system cue. And every tiny choice to bring order is a message to your body, you're safe now. Coming up next. Let's close this journey with power, not pain. We'll talk about clarity and closure. And how healing isn't about getting their apology. But finally giving yourself your own permission. They never said sorry. They probably never will. No explanation. No accountability. Just silence. Deflection. Disappearing acts. And yet. You're still here. Still breathing. Still healing. Still rebuilding. That's closure. Not because they gave it to you. But because you chose it. We're taught that healing needs a bow. A final chapter. A sit-down talk. The moment they see what they did. But in narcissistic abuse? That rarely comes. There's no apology that undoes years of gaslighting. No sentence that rewrites the silence. No confession that rewinds the control. True closure isn't what they say. It's what you believe about yourself. It's when you stop hoping for them to change and start trusting your own clarity. Comment I close it if you're ready to stop waiting and start reclaiming. You are not broken. You are not too sensitive. You are not dramatic. You are not the problem. You were simply unheard. Unseen. And now, you're done handing out backstage passes to people who never clapped for you. Your healing is valid. Even if no one else understands it. Even if no one ever apologizes for what they did. Your story gets to end in self-respect. Not revenge. Not begging. Not pretending it didn't matter. But with one deep breath. And a whisper. I don't need closure from them. I only need to believe myself. Thank you for walking this journey. And remember, you don't have to decode them. You only need to trust your own clarity. Unmasking personality.